Yep. So let's we got free agency underway, and then we're gonna review episodes 7 and 8 of the Dynasty, and then we only got 2 episodes left of that, which is crazy.
How fast
But
5 weeks goes by, man.
free agency has started. There are some teams that are, they're having a good off season. There's some that are kind of just holding steady. There's others, I don't know what they're doing, Dallas Cowboys, but they just signed Eric Kendricks after previously reaching an agreement with the 49ers. Kendrick is actually going to Dallas.
That deal didn't happen?
Yeah, it literally right. Oh, my house. My Can you still hear me?
I sure can.
I'm pretty sure my mom is calling me right now. I don't, but the but yeah, it was like right as I hit record, I got a notification. Cowboys signed Eric Kendricks after previously having agreement with the 49ers. So we got that.
Hey, pairing him up with Mike just to at least help teach this defense. I'm not saying he's going to be a playmaker like what he was, because hey, football's a tough collision game. Eric's played the linebacker spot for 10 plus years. Your body's going to wear down, but mentally he can tell this young team the defense in and out with Zim. So for just the leadership aspect and being a teacher, I see the fit.
Yeah, I mean it is what it is. Outside of signing a long snapper, that's not really. I mean they're in a tough cap spot. But
what do you do? What can you do?
Going down the line here, we were gonna do some discussion, but I basically have the NFL.com pulled up, and I'm going over teams, and starting in the AFC East. Really, the big one for the Bills is re-signing Deion Dawkins, getting him to a 3-year, $60.5 million extension. You need that protection, especially with Josh Allen. David Edwards, I think that's another nice pickup. With that newfound run game with James Cook, takes the pressure off Josh Allen. I think you need to solidify that offensive line. A guy like David Edwards does that, re-signing AJ Epinesa, DaQuan Jones. A lot of the Bills news came with a lot of cutting older veterans. So I actually kind of like the offseason the Bills are having. They're cutting bait with a lot of old, overpaid veterans and trying to rebuild through the draft, getting some nice pieces in free agency and getting younger, which is something that I think they learned from the Chiefs, like what the Chiefs did in what was that in 2019 or 2018 when they kind of rebuilt through the draft. They kept a couple of guys.
It was it started in 21.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah,
21.
Yeah, it was after they lost to the Bucks in the Super Bowl.
Yep.
The Dolphins, I really have no idea what they're doing. They always seem to sign the guy about everybody that are 3 years past their prime. They get rid of Christian Wilkins. They did sign Shaq Barrett. Not a bad pickup. And they signed, like we said, a guy that's about 3 years past their prime, Jordan Poyer, a safety, is going down there. But, you can't really expect a whole lot out of the Dolphins because they're never going to win a Super Bowl there because they are just take on kind of the embodiment of that city where they're just not very tough.
Well, and Dylan, I was going to say, this is the team that I'm most disappointed in. Because they clearly don't know how to run a football team. They're putting all their eggs in Tua and Jalen Waddle and Tyreek.
And you got to pay Tua next year.
You got to pay Tua next year. You're going to pay him about $20 million a year more than what he's actually worth. You let Robert Hunt go. Your running game fell off towards the end of the year anyway. Teron Armstead is always hurt, so you're not going to be able to get that going. You have Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips coming off late season major surgeries and major injuries at explosive positions when you got to rush the passer. And you let Christian Wilkins go. So 3 of your 4 starting defensive linemen are gone, and also Alex Van Ginkel. You let him walk away, he had 7 sacks last year in that interception against the Commanders. I'm sitting back and Jerome Baker is off the team now. What are we doing? And Xavier Howard, I understand he was older and he was hurt in the financial aspects of it, but this team, they have no toughness. They've lost everything they had at the line of scrimmage this year. And I wouldn't be surprised in 2 years if Mike McDaniel's out of a head coaching job and this GM is fired.
Yeah.
They never should have fired Brian Flores. Just because
they chose Tua over B-Flow.
Just because the GM drafted Tua and he was the guy and he reported to the owner and blah, 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 blah. That's a mistake they are going to regret for 10 plus years.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Dolphins, they're the Dolphins. They're going to stay where they're at. Patriots, they did listen to me, and they signed Jacoby Brissett, like I said they were going to. Big thing out of this is Austin Hooper is going to the Patriots. They're going to, looks like, judging by that, they're going to go heavy 2 tight end set because they also re-signed Hunter Henry, re-signed Kendrick Bourne. Big one out of this one, Michael Onwenu re-signed him. I did not know that Tyrone Wheatley Jr. converted to an O-line because he was a tight end at Michigan, then transferred after a couple of years. Patriots, we'll see. If we had to play some type of word game with them, we'll see. Because I think right now they're looking to draft a quarterback. I think you have to at this point. They traded Mac Jones.
Yeah, it's got to be patience. They're not going to be able to get skilled players in this league who are free agents until they have a young quarterback that free agents believe in. Until then, who's going to want to go to New England? No, nobody.
So, yeah, and it's not the Patriots we grew up on. And then rounding out the AFC East is the New York Jets. They traded for Morgan Moses, which Jets you made the haul for Aaron Rodgers. He got hurt 3 snaps into the season. You need that. You're only as good as your production. They signed John Simpson, an offensive lineman. They re-signed Greg Zuerlein. They re-signed Thomas Morstead. They got some insurance security, probably their best option as far as a backup quarterback. Re-signed Tyrod Taylor. Jets, similarly, I think they're a disaster. I don't have much. And your quarterback might be a potential vice president one day. So who knows? And then the AFC North, the Ravens, the big signing out of there is they signed Derrick Henry, old washed up running back, but I think Henry will be a good pickup for them. Matabuki, they re-signed Nelson Aguilar. Was he? Yeah, he was on the Ravens last year, wasn't he?
Yes, he was.
Yeah, but signing Derrick Henry, you need those running backs. You can never have enough. We'll see if they actually listen to us and actually put Lamar more under center and letting him get out on the edge and throw the ball. I think maybe that's what they're trying to do with signing Derrick Henry is go more under center this year, get Derrick Henry running downhill. Maybe that's what they're trying to go with. If that's the case, and if Henry can kind of go into the fountain of youth and kind of find some of his running ability from a couple of years ago, that might not be a bad hire or pickup for the Ravens.
Yeah, we'll see. It's all going to come down to the health of J.K. Dobbins because eventually Henry, his body's going to catch up to him. I know he's an absolute machine and he trains harder than anyone else in the NFL, but the wear and tear in this league, especially going to that black and blue division, where you have to go up against that Ravens defense in training camp. The Steelers twice a year, that Browns defense, the Bengals. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about them. Their window might be kind of closing.
They have Joe Burrow. But
I get
the
that.
The big thing with Joe is he's got to stay healthy.
He's got to stay healthy, and you lose some pieces on the edge, possibly do, and that offensive line has to get better than what it did last year. But like I said, they got Joe Burrow, and they can still prove some people wrong. So tough division, the AFC North for sure.
And they traded for Zach Moss. Well, that's a good transition there, Grant. Good work here. Because the Bengals were actually next on the list here, trading for Zach Moss, he was a free agent. They signed him, so traded Joe Mixon to the Texans, which, I think there's still a lot of miles left on Joe Mixon's legs, but he was going to be expensive. They got cheaper and probably that same amount of production. T. Higgins, we're going to see what's going to happen with him. They franchise tagged him, but he just requested a trade.
I don't think anything's going to happen. I think he's going to be in Cincinnati next year.
Nothing. He's going to show up. The way that the CBA is constructed now, at the mandatory mini camps, he's going to start showing up because he's going to be getting fined, and it's always crazy how once people they start getting threatened with fines, they always show up.
But he'll ball out this year, and then they'll let him walk next year.
So, yep. And the Browns, they signed Jameis Winston, which isn't the biggest quarterback signing here in the AFC North. They also traded for Jerry Jeudy for a 5th and a 6th rounder, and then they re-signed Michael Dunn, the guard, re-signed Zadarius Smith, and then they got Jordan Hicks on a free agent deal. But Jerry Jeudy adds another weapon who really very underperformed in Denver. Maybe that's part of his quarterbacks, but put to rest the Joe Flacco re-signing since Jameis is there. We'll see what happens with Jerry Jeudy. I probably going to be playing with his best quarterbacks, which isn't saying a whole lot today because we're going to see with Jerry Jeudy. But I like this Jameis hire because maybe some of the, when you talk about Jameis Winston, that he is always everybody who talks about how great of a leader he is. Deshaun Watson, maybe Jameis being around Deshaun Watson, maybe that'll rub off. Jameis's leadership qualities will rub off on Deshaun Watson.
I see what you did there.
So, Cleveland, the big one then on this one is the Pittsburgh Steelers go out. Well, they also signed Patrick Queen, which is also a pretty big hire, but that's not the biggest one. The Steelers went out and hired Russell Wilson. The biggest thing for this one for Russell, just focus on football, man. You don't got to worry about being Mr. Unlimited and all the social media pandering, like trying to please everybody. Just go out, be a good teammate, do your job, put the team first, and you're going to be a lot better than what you were, and go change. You have the opportunity to get rid of being labeled the worst trade in NFL history.
Correct. And he has a leader in Mike Tomlin. And he's going back to a system that fits him. Pittsburgh's going to run the ball. They're going to get some play action. They're going to go deep to George Pickens. They got a good tight end there. Football-wise, it's a good move. Now Russell just has to mature and not mess this up.
Yep. And hopefully he does. But, we'll see. So let's go down to the AFC South. A busy team. The team that's been very busy is the defending AFC South champions, the Texans, trading for Joe Mixon, re-signing Dalton Schultz, signing Danielle Hunter from the Vikings, going out and getting Danico Autry. Looking at their sign, they re-signed Desmond King. They signed Jeff Okudah, who's been a bit of a bust, re-signing Eric Murray to kind of solidify a guy that's been a strong leader on that back end of the secondary for the Texans for quite a while. And then re-signing a kicker. It's a good insurance policy to have is Kaimi Fairbairn, getting him to a 3-year deal. But Houston's going all in. They're going for it. I think they realize how short a windows teams have in this league. I think without having to pay a quarterback who right now looks like he is going to be a tremendous player in this league, they're going all in. They're getting all those pieces around him to give him the best shot that they have to make a Super Bowl run.
No, I agree, and you can't blame Houston. Going out, getting Danielle Hunter, who's from Texas originally. When healthy, guy's an absolute animal. He's a stud. He's a Pro Bowler. He's an All-Pro candidate, and he's going to be a perfect complement outside Will Anderson. And then, signing Audrey. Like you said, this is right up D'Amico Ryan's alley. We're going to load up with absolute horses in the front 7. We're going to get after your quarterback. In our secondary, they might not be studs, but they're going to be good, capable players. But since we're going to get after it up front, that's okay. Because if your quarterback doesn't have time to throw, my secondary can make a play. And with Joe Mixon and Dameon Pierce, you got a little thunder lightning combination. Hopefully, now that Mixon has another back in the backfield. He doesn't get injured as much, less wear and tear on those tires. I think good things to come in Houston. And you're spot on, Dylan. When you don't have to pay a quarterback, go get a bunch of good veterans and try to win this thing.
Yep. And staying in the South, let's go to the Colts, who, I thought this was a potential spot for Justin Fields, and who knows, that might still happen. But they went out and got a backup quarterback, and it was the comeback player of the year. It was Joe Flacco, signed a 1-year deal. They franchise tagged Michael Pittman, able to get a deal done already, 3 years, $70 million. Went out and a lot of re-signings. They also re-signed Tyquan Lewis on the edge, Grant's favorite position. Re-signed Grover Stewart to keep the interior of that defensive line. Signing Zaire Franklin from, where was he at?
I think he was there last year. I thought they re-signed him.
Was he? Let's see here.
Because wasn't he the guy who him and Jason Kelce got in a fight?
Yep. Outside linebacker. Yep. Yeah, looking at his picture, I would not want to get in a fight with him.
Correct.
But, re-signing Kenny Franklin and re-signing Rigoberto Sanchez. So, a lot of re-signings for the Colts, kind of shoring up some positions. But then let's get to the Jaguars, who have another first-round pick on the roster from that 21 draft in Mac Jones that they got from the Patriots. They re-signed Dearness Johnson, went and signed Gabe Davis to a 3-year deal. That'll give them a over-the-top option since they lost Calvin Ridley. Signed Devin Duvernay. Signed an extension with Blake Hance. Went out and got Ezra Cleveland and Mitch Morse, because you need that protection, because Trevor Lawrence was not himself last year. He was beat up. I think a lot of it came from poor guard play. The tackles, I think they're happy with their tackles, but the interior offensive line was a disaster last year for Jacksonville. So definitely made that a priority. Went and re-signed edge Josh Allen, signed Ronald Darnell Savage. So good offseason, good aggressive offseason for the Jaguars as well, who also have a decision on what they want to do with Trevor Lawrence, and I think they want to give him the best opportunity that he's had in Jacksonville to this point.
Yeah, this is a big year for Trevor, and I think for the most part, this team they're still right there. They have a lot of good pieces. They shored up some of the secondary holes they had. Like you said, you bring in Mitch Morse, who people are going to forget how good of a player he was, not only in Buffalo, but when he was drafted by the Chiefs right away. He came in as a day one starter at center. He's going to take a lot of pressure off Lawrence's plate because he's going to call out your protections. And like you said, Dylan, he's going to be an anchor to make sure Trevor stays healthy. And I don't know, with Mac Jones, I don't know if they thought, hey, let's get a backup. Let's get a hometown kid who grew up in Jacksonville. Or if they think, hey, maybe we can have one of the better backups in this league. I'm not sure, but we'll stay tuned and see what happens.
Yep. Titans, they went out and got they've had a bit of an aggressive offseason as well. New coach Brian Callahan, I think they are also all in on trying to make Will Levis successful, going by their signings. They went out and signed Tony Pollard from Dallas, and then they also went out and today went and signed Calvin Ridley for a 4-year, $92 million contract, giving them DeAndre Hopkins was only a 1-year deal, so I doubt he re-signs. They went and signed Chidobe Awuzie from Cincinnati, got Nick Folk, and they also re-signed their long snapper Morgan Cox. So aggressive offseason as well for the Titans, who I think you're seeing a trend there too, because I think it's a division that is very up for grabs. That, yes, the Texans won, but I think it's still, was it a 1-year wonder? I don't know. Titans went out aggressive, got a young quarterback. Houston, like we said. The Colts, with Anthony Richardson. I really think they want to see what they're able to do with him a full year and a second season under Shane Steichen. So very aggressive, very winnable. I think going to be very exciting once the season kicks off. And let's go over to the rounding out the AFC here. AFC West. Broncos releasing Russell Wilson. Still have yet to sign a quarterback, which probably tells you they are going to be going drafting somebody this year with only Jarrett Stidham on the roster as of now. They signed Malcolm Roach, safety, re-signed PJ Locke. Justin Simmons is still out there. I don't think anybody's signed him yet, have they?
Not yet, no.
No, so interesting offseason for the Broncos. The Chiefs, the big one is re-signing Chris Jones. I think there was a lot of talk. I think a lot of them were up in the air depending on what they wanted to do between Chris Jones and L'Jarius Sneed. And my argument is re-signing Chris Jones is 1,000% the right decision because you can get another L'Jarius Sneed. You can draft him. The Chiefs have a pretty solid secondary. They've drafted well with McDuffie having a nice couple of years so far. Chris Jones is a future Hall of Famer, and there's really only one other comparable player in the NFL to Chris Jones, and that's Aaron Donald.
Oh, 1,000%. And, like I said before with Houston and DeMeco Ryans, Dylan, his philosophy, I'm with you. Always, I'd rather have an all-star defensive line than a great secondary. And I'm not trying to take anything away from L'Jarius. In the regular season last year, he gave up 0 touchdowns in coverage. He held every number one he faced to, I want to say, 30 or 40 yards below their season average. He jammed Justin Jefferson so bad he strained his hamstring here at U.S. Bank Stadium. L'Jarius, he's a stud, but he's not a Hall of Famer. Chris Jones is a Hall of Famer, and you brought up McDuffie. You also, Jalen Watson, I think, has a lot of potential. Joshua Williams, who's a long corner and fast. And like I said, they've drafted well. They're coached extremely well. All those young corners are going into their third year. Bring back Chris, and then just keep this thing rolling.
Yep, and we'll keep rolling here in the AFC West. The Raiders have a quarterback, went out and signed Gardner Minshew. I don't know if he's the long-term answer. He's good in a pinch. We're going to see what they do, how he does with coaching. I think last year a lot of his success came from the strong coaching he had as Shane Steichen. I don't know if you're getting that in Oakland. I'm just being honest.
Las Vegas.
Same thing. Antonio Pierce is doing a lot of talking. We thought this was a good hire. I see this ending the same way it did with the rest of the Raiders. Him talking about how they have the Mahomes rules. Dude, you won one game where your offense didn't complete a pass for 3 quarters. When the Chiefs go into Vegas next year and play you guys, that's going to be on their mind. And what are you going to say about these Mahomes rules when Pat Mahomes goes and drops 50 on your ass? They did go out and sign Christian Wilkins to pair with Max Crosby, though.
But Dylan, as a Chiefs fan, that doesn't concern me. Hear me out. I saw Christian Wilkins play 2 games this last year against the Chiefs. Didn't do anything. Besides the viral clip of Crosby and Mahomes going at each other and the quarterback, Crosby struggles against the Chiefs. He does not play well, and he does not have – I don't know if he has a sack yet. I think he does. But for the most part, he doesn't impact the game like he does against other opponents. I don't know what it is. Maybe he gets too amped up against the Chiefs or anything, but Wilkins, it's a nice signing on paper, but he's not a disruptor, and he's not going to make enough plays himself, I feel, to where it's going to make a difference in Las Vegas. And your point, the 2 touchdowns the Raiders scored.
Paid him a lot of money, too.
Paid him a lot of money. The 2 touchdowns the Raiders scored against the Chiefs were defensive touchdowns when Pacheco fumbled and Mahomes threw a pick 6.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, you didn't find a blueprint, Antonio. The Chiefs just played their worst game in 5 years. And
And
you
then
got lucky.
pretty much. And then going to Chargers, new head coach Jim Harbaugh, a bit of a quiet one. Big news was they cut Mike Williams today, $32 million in dead money. Ugh, rough. And which, when he's healthy, he's one of the best receivers in football, but he's hardly ever healthy. They did go out and sign Gus Edwards, kind of give him that bowling ball of a running back, that downhill style that Harbaugh likes to play. And then they went and signed Will Dissly. But not a whole lot on the Chargers front right now. I think they're going to want to build through the draft.
Yeah, not much you can do when the Chargers don't have any money to spend.
Yep.
What do you do?
And then let's go over to the NFC here. Dallas, like we said earlier, they signed Eric Kendricks, and then they re-signed the long snapper, Trent Sieg. Tough spot, not much money. And then the Giants, been very aggressive right now. They went out and got Drew Lock as a backup, who I bet will probably be the starter by the end of the year, because I just don't see it with Daniel Jones. They have buyer's remorse on that contract. Losing Saquon Barkley, but they went out and got Devin Singletary, Isaiah McKenzie from the Buffalo. Kind of shoring up that offensive line, though, too, which is something they need because their offensive line has been atrocious the last couple of years. Went out and signed Jermaine Eluemunor, and then they also went out and got John Runyon from the Packers. And their biggest splash that they've made is they went out and traded Brian Burns. They got traded for Brian Burns that they got, shoring up that defensive line that pairs them with Kayvon Thibodeau, and I'm trying to think who else they have.
Sexy Dexter Lawrence.
Yep, Dexter Lawrence. And the Panthers, they're staying a disaster because they could have gotten 2 first-rounders last year for Brian Burns, and they said no. But that's the Panthers, and we'll get to them in a little bit. And let's go over to the Eagles here. And Grant, they went aggressive. They got Saquon Barkley and realistically, and C.J. Gardner-Johnson. But you know what? The meme you or Ethan sent to our group chat today,
it was me.
That was you. And when I saw all the pieces that they had, I was like, I'm waiting for somebody to post this or somebody to say who's stopping this offense, and then post. I was getting ready to post a picture of Nick Sirianni, because when you have to have, a lot of people are pinpointing when their season fell or started falling apart was when Big Dom was banned from the sidelines, because he was the one that was calming Nick Sirianni down. If you need your head of security to calm your head coach down, you probably shouldn't be a head coach. Just me. Correct. Oh, and Kellen Moore is the offensive coordinator. So I'm not sweating the Eagles.
No, I'm with you, dog. And I understand Saquon is a great signing. And sure, he's not playing on turf anymore, but he's been through a lot. He's going to sprain an ankle. He's going to strain a groin. He's going to have a hamstring. And then also just the loss of Jason Kelce and Fletcher Cox, 2 huge pieces in that locker room. Everyone wants to talk, bringing Brandon Graham back for a 14th year or 15th year. The dude's not going to play. Like, why would you bring him back, but then also sign Bryce Huff to a 3-year deal? You still have Hassan Reddick on your team, Josh Sweat. You draft Nolan Smith in the first round last year. I don't get it. Just cut bait with them and tell them to go home.
Yep.
I really still I think with the loss of those 2 players, there's still not much leadership in that locker room. And is Kellen Moore really going to give Saquon the ball in the ground game? We didn't see it in Dallas, so why would we think he's going to change? He didn't do it last year in L.A. They're still going to try to get Jalen Hurts the MVP and throw the ball all the time, which is not going to work out, but it'll be a win for us because the Eagles are going to cry. Eagles cry.
Yep. I just want to have like a microphone or like be in on the conversations of Vic Fangio screaming at Kellen Moore for telling him how stupid of a play caller he is. Yeah. That'll be very entertaining. And then in Washington, they went out and they signed Marcus Mariota. Went out and got Austin Eckler, Zach Ertz, Tyler Biadasz, Dorrance Armstrong. It's basically
Bobby Wagner?
The guys that Bobby Wagner, Cleveland Farrell, Jeremy Chin. Oh, I like that. I do like that signing.
Chin's a good one.
It seems like Gus Bradley in his first year, they're getting a lot of guys that are old and washed up.
You mean Dan Campbell? No, Dan Quinn.
Dan Quinn, yeah. Who did I say?
You said Gus Bradley.
Oh, well, they were both defensive coordinators in Seattle, and they both kind of look the same.
Well, and they're both bald, right? Bradley's bald, right? Yeah. They're both bald, right?
Yep. Gus Bradley's son is actually a redshirt freshman on the NDSU basketball team. Fun fact for you.
Oh, there you go. But yeah, Washington, they're clearly building through the draft. They just got some older veterans who are going to bring some leadership to this team and help install a culture that Quinn wants. But it's a rebuild in Washington.
Yep, and let's go over to the NFC North here. The Bears, they went out and they got DeAndre Swift. Good hire, good run game. They still have yet to cut bait with Justin Fields, and we've had this discussion on here before, but we need to stop having this discussion that Justin Fields is a franchise quarterback or he's even a starter in this league. The guy's started 40 games. He's won 11 of them. He's not that good. He's a turnover machine. He's not a good thrower of the football. They're better off drafting Caleb Williams, Drake May, J.J. McCarthy, whoever. But they also they've been aggressive. They went out and got Ryan Bates in trade from the Bills, Gerald Everett, Matt Pryor, re-signing Jalen Johnson to a big contract. Kevin Byard.
That's the best offseason move right there for them. Keeping Jalen Johnson.
Probably the best offseason move they've made since they traded for Jay Cutler.
Probably, actually.
Yeah. So the Lions went out and re-signed Graham Glasgow, former Wolverine, Marcus Davenport, getting Carlton Davis in a trade from Buffalo.
That's a big get.
Which replaces C.J. Gardner-Johnson from Tampa, yeah. And then I'm a little bit puzzled on that, but they did re-sign Michael Badgley, so I'm not quite sure on that one. But the Packers went out and got Josh Jacobs for in a 4-year deal, $48 million. I struggle paying running backs that much. I don't get it. I don't get it. And maybe it was because of the system he played in, and then going out and signing Xavier McKinney, who's also old and probably paid him way too much. But
you have to overpay for someone to want to voluntarily move to Green Bay.
Also true. So then let's get down to the Vikings here in Grant's home state. They did a couple of re-signings. Johnny Munt and David Kissenberry went out and got Andrew Van Ginkel. I like this guy. He is a tremendous player, tremendous motor, plays hard. Coming at a bit of a homecoming of sorts. Started his football career at the University of South Dakota. Was actually part of that upset that the Coyotes did over NDSU back in 2015 when we were in college. Was part of that team.
That was the Carson Wentz broken wrist game?
Yes, that's what it was.
Wow.
And losing Kirk Cousins, they went out and re-signed Sam Darnold, which if you put a gun to my head and asked me who I would trust more, and I'm not, this is probably putting a gun to your head and putting these two in the same sentence is probably you're going to end up with the same result, but Sam Darnold compared to Justin Fields, I would rather have Sam Darnold because I do think Sam Darnold is a much better quarterback than Fields is. Sam Darnold can play from the pocket. We've seen a lot of the bright spots. We've seen Sam Darnold win some games. I think a lot of Sam Darnold's shortcomings have been because of look at where he's played. He's played with Adam Gase and the Jets. He's played in Carolina, where it's going to be a disaster until David Tepper just sells the team. I think Sam Darnold. I think you saw what he is capable of in San Francisco when he had an adult in the room. He had some good offensive weapons around him, which Minnesota does. They went out and signed Aaron Jones on a nice team-friendly 1-year, $7 million deal. Re-signing Brandon Powell. Now rumor is that Justin Jefferson is not happy and they're going to try might want to trade, but. I think this isn't a terrible offseason barring the circumstances of what considering losing Kirk Cousins is. I like what Minnesota has done so far.
I'm with you. And then Dylan also, a couple other free agent signings, Blake Cashman getting that linebacker from Houston. That's a big get. Him and Ivan Pace are going to be a nice little duo in the middle of that defense. He can blitz, he can do multiple things. So Flores is going to love him. And then is it Greenwood, the defensive end from Houston, 12.5 sacks last year?
Greenard. Yep.
Greenard. And then also you can get a pass rusher on a 4-year deal for less than $80 million. In this league, that's a win.
Yep. And good production. Same thing with
and Greenard's his advanced metrics, he was like the 4th fastest pass rusher last year to get to the quarterback in like 2.5 seconds.
And the same thing back to Van Ginkel, though, too, is he's not going to blow you away with stats, but he's one of those guys that's going to do his job and do a lot that doesn't show up in the stat book. Ultimate teammate.
Correct. And, I think it's been a good offseason for the Vikings considering what they had. But when it comes to Kirk, they can't match what Atlanta was going to pay him. So it is what it is.
Yep. And then let's get through the AFC South, the big one. Atlanta going out, getting Kirk Cousins, adding to their really going offensive heavy. They're going for it, and also a very winnable division. Getting Darnell Mooney from the Bears, and then
who they overpaid for.
Yes, they did.
Whew.
But they also had a lot of cap space too, so they could do that.
That is true.
With the young weapons they have, they can afford to do that with Bijan. Maybe Kyle Pitts will actually get in the end zone. And then re-signing the long snapper. Carolina, who cares? They're going to be picking. They might actually get a first round pick next year, but I'm at a loss for words with them. Even a guy like a Dan Morgan, who's been in that building, I think he's still even afraid of David Tepper and what he does. I think that's kind of what I've heard and listening to the GM shuffle. Michael Lombardi talking about that everybody is too afraid to say something that Tepper won't agree with, and he'll just lose it on you, which is not a healthy workplace. So
I agree.
And Michael Lombardi talks about it as how like a lot in those situations where like they talk about how everybody was on board about drafting or signing somebody. He's like, no, not everybody was. They were just too afraid to say something, because then they get into the point of worrying about keeping job security, yada yada yada. But Saints, quiet off season, re-signing Demario Davis, who was in his entering the final year of his contract. They went out and got Willie Gay from the Chiefs, and re-signing Tyrann Mathieu, and looked like they did a little bit of his job restructuring. Quiet off season in New Orleans. The Bucs, they've been busy. They went out and got put a non-exclusive on Antoine Winfield, that's a tremendous bring back. You want that guy in the locker room. Plays just like his dad. Getting Baker Mayfield, solidifying that quarterback, some continuity there. Going out, re-signing Mike Evans, re-signing Chase Edmonds, re-signing Levante David. A lot of re-signings, and then they went out and got Jordan Whitehead as well.
Good offseason in Tampa.
Yep.
Kept all the players they need to keep. They can still build in the draft if they need another wide receiver or if they need a corner. I think Todd Bowles is turning this thing in the right direction. They got the quarterback who loves the city, loves the team, loves his teammates. You still have a very good offensive line in Tampa Bay. Bright future for the Bucs, if you ask me.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's go to the AFC West. The Cardinals going out and oh my, DJ Dallas. If you ever have time, Grant, go and look at his his picture on NFL.com. his eyes, holy crap! But they went heavy on the offensive line this year. They went out and got Jonah Williams, protecting Kyler, because that's a big point. You know, and I think for a lot of people looking, and we're looking ahead here, but looking at like the draft, I think there was a lot of questions about what the Cardinals were going to do if they were going to go draft a receiver. I was always kind of in the thing of go out and protect Kyler. But I think with this Jonah Williams signing, I think what that does, that kind of says that they're going to try and go and take a receiver at pick number 4 if potentially Marvin Harrison Jr. is there. Or if not, maybe they try to trade down. Went out and got Sean Murphy Bunting. But not a bad off season for the Cardinals. The Rams they went out and Jonah Jackson. Did they re-sign him or what did they do?
He came from Detroit.
He came from Detroit. That's right.
Yep.
And then Colby Parkinson signed him to a 3-year deal. Fairly quiet offseason for the Rams. I think they're still kind of in that soft rebuild mode, dealing with their.
I think they also have like another 10 picks or so, and after last year's draft, I think Les Snead and his staff are pretty comfortable looking over collegiate talent, and they're going to see if they can try to build this thing for the future and get players on a lot of cheap contracts.
Yep. A team that also got a cheap edge contract is the 49ers, who went out and in a sense of rich get richer, getting another edge player, and in Leonard Floyd, 2 years, $20 million. That's a bargain.
Which is an upgrade over Chase Young.
Yep, absolutely. And you don't got to worry about the effort from Chase Young. Seahawks re-signing Leonard Floyd, re-signing Leonard Williams, but pretty quiet off season here for up in the Pacific Northwest for the Seahawks. So that's kind of our run through here. It was a lot, but you know what? That was kind of the best way we knew how to do it. And